Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Soul Journey 424. Hi, Michelle.
Hello, hello.
So, before we started this, you mentioned how you've been feeling for the last week or so. Can you describe it to the audience?
So the last, I would say, week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, I've felt foggy headed, and I believe the energy has moved. It's moved up the back of my head. So I think that's what it is.
Can you describe for the audience exactly, at least to the best of your ability, the fogginess? Is it almost like a drug induced? Is it hard to concentrate? Is it a sleepiness or?
It's kind of it's like a headache in the back of my head that see, I also have tinnitus. I never really talk about that, but I have this tinnitus, and sometimes it's almost like I can feel like a pulsation in my ears, my head, and it just kind of feels off. I don't know how to explain it. So, uh, just not clear.
Okay. But you're still able to drive and function at your job,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah. Although I feel like I don't have the patience like I used to, because I guess there's so much energy in my body at all times that if something happens that triggers me, or something happens that would cause a response, I find myself responding differently than I used to. I used to be very calm and easygoing and could calm all situations, and now I find myself like getting irritated.
So it's interesting, it's causing some irritability in you.
Yeah.
Do you think this is traditionally, would you guess the head is the final part of the Kundalini awakening, as far as you know?
Um, as far as I know, it starts in the base and then goes through the energy centers, all the chakras, and goes out the top of your head. Because there's seven main chakras. There's chakras all throughout your body, different meridians that I don't know. I don't want to say anything because I don't know all the answers to all of them, but I know that they say that when it happens, it'll go out the top of your head. However, I have heard that people have said that they've been on the Kundalini journey for 10 years, some people, and they're just now feeling different things. So I think everybody is different. Everybody's journey is different because everybody's background is different. So, uh, so the Kundalini knows you, and it knows what you need and how you need to heal. And they call it the it's the divine feminine energy. Is the they is what they call the Kundalini energy. And I don't know if I should continue calling it a Kundalini awakening or a Kundalini activation, because now the awakening. When you say awakening, people assume that you've gone through the whole process, and it's gone from your bottom chakra all the way out your head, but that's not what happened to me. It's still in there. It's still active. I haven't had it go in one end and out the other, or anything like that. It's activated. I can feel it. I feel like it's almost like this tingling feeling in my back. Sometimes it happens during meditation, and then it happens throughout the day. It's nonstop. It's just.
From any of the sources that you've watched so far,
Mhm.
has anybody had a Kundalini activation that has ultimately ceased?
Some, yes, I have read a few stories about how they had this pure bliss and these feelings of, uh, you know, um, these heavenly feelings, and then all of a sudden they woke up and they didn't have it anymore.
Hmm.
And I don't think that's real common because I've only read it a couple times. But usually once it awakens, it's in there, and it's going to do everything that it can to purify you and bring things to the surface that need to be worked on, such as, past traumas that have been pressed down for years and years. So it'll bring it up to the front of your mind, and a lot of people don't want to deal with it. So they'll stop and say, "All right, I can't take that. I don't want to think about that right now." But it's coming up for you to acknowledge it and release it. So I have learned that that's why once this happens, all those things that you thought you suppressed and that were gone are coming up.
I think just generally we've all experienced that if you're going to suppress something, that's not a good thing, right?
No.
People may have to do that to survive
A situation.
a situation, but it's not the way to have ultimate happiness, certainly.
No, it just causes more blockages. I think we talked about that before, and as you, it just layers on top of each other. So that it's like an injury. It's an injury, and then another injury, and another injury, and it just keep getting layered. So as Kundalini rises or activates, it starts to work on all of those different things. So that's why it comes to the front of your mind.
So for the viewers, then I would hope they're in a situation that they're able to face and experience this and not suppress it, because then unfortunately they're not going to be living through their full Kundalini awakening potential, I suppose.
That's right. That's right. You have to let it go, or the Kundalini may become dormant again. If it's trying to help you to heal those things and you're not receiving it, or you're denying it and not surrendering to it and releasing it, it may go dormant again, and then it's not gonna. It once it's activated, I've read that it doesn't stop, but it will go dormant. It's just not as active because it's given you advice and you haven't taken it. It's kind of like
You're not ready.
You're not ready. Yeah, and it knows you're not ready. So if you show that you're not ready, it's not gonna. They say it knows you so intimately that it'll only give you what you can handle.
And I'm gonna kind of quote a term that you and I discussed the last time. Is that is because in theory that is your higher self. So if it is your higher self, it does understand you intimately, and if you're not ready, I guess it's not trying to scare you.
It knows, and our higher self is not allowed to interfere with our free will. So it may be there to call on for help if you need it, but if it's going to interfere with your life's plan or whatever your soul plan was that you created before you actually came to the earth, which it gets complicated and it's very esoteric, and I understand that it's difficult for people to understand, but it can't interfere with your soul plan. If it's going to affect your soul plan, it's not going to happen.
So before you mentioned something that I thought is such an apropos way you described it, is you actually stopped describing something because you didn't feel comfortable talking about it because you didn't know. Mm-hmm. I'd like to discuss another topic similar and related, because I think one of the reasons the viewers really want to learn is because they're afraid, they don't understand what they're going to be experiencing. But you did with a friend,
yes,
who is both the yoga instructor and a Reiki healer.
Yes.
Can you, I guess without giving too much information, can you share what occurred to the viewers?
So when all of this arose in May 29th, 2024, and I started having these movements and weird things happening with my body. I was panicking because I didn't know what was going on. I had no background on Kundalini. I did not know what it was. I didn't understand that, it was trauma release. I had no idea what any of it was. So I had reached out to a friend of mine who actually, it wasn't my friend that gave me wrong advice. It was my friend reached out to someone that we both had gone to a yoga um, meeting at, because we thought, well, maybe she has some answers, because in the beginning I was having those I hate to say the word orgasmic, but it was kind of like my first three centers were just very activated, and I couldn't turn it off. It was like almost constant, keeping me up at night, and it was it was blissful feeling. But when you don't sleep, you feel like crap. So anyway, I had reached out to my friend, who then reached out to this person that we went to yoga with, and she told her these different things that were happening to me, and she recommended that I, get out my sexual energy with my spouse, or you know um and I now that I have done my research, and this was somebody who is a Reiki healer and a yoga instructor and, herbalist. Um, I assumed that she may know what was happening with me, but apparently she didn't. So it just shows me that, although she would have had a session with me, and that's what we were discussing, that people that are vulnerable in this state can be taken advantage of, because they're reaching out in their distress to somebody, and they'll want to have a service, provide a service for you, but they don't know what they're talking about. So
it could be so you could have been victimized as a money grab.
exactly, yes. And I think that there's a lot of that going around, because people are doing Kundalini yoga that have never had the Kundalini awakening or a Kundalini activation, but yet they're teaching people this stuff. So what happens is, these people go to this Kundalini awaken or yoga, and they're doing all these moves to activate their Kundalini, and some of them it does activate, and then these teachers that have never gone through Kundalini can't guide them, and then here are these people that reaching out for people, and then they're getting their money taken, because there's no teachers out there that are knowledgeable in this area.
And that actually scares me. So it's really the blind charging the blind
Yeah,
for an experience that they themselves haven't done.
right. And so you have to be very careful reaching out to people. I have not actually paid anyone for advice. I've reached out to people on YouTube and some websites and things, but I never actually paid anybody. But there are guides and teachers that have gone through it that can show you the way, but you have to be very you need to do your homework to find somebody who's actually gone through it.
And I think that's also going to take a level of trust, because maybe that might be one of the fundamental questions when you ask somebody for professional type help. Maybe the first question should be, have you yourself ever gone through this? And if they say yes and you don't believe them, run. Or
Yeah,
perhaps
right.
if they say no, then you can believe them and
Yeah.
run.
Yeah, I wouldn't. There's no one that can understand what this is like unless they've been through it, it's, to some extent. And that's who you want to ask questions and talk to, and ask them, did you ever have this happen, and what should I do when this happens, and just somebody to guide you, because when this happens, and you have no idea what to do, and you have nobody to go to, it's really good. So I'm gonna link some things in the comment section that I have found to be very helpful, because there are teachers out there that can guide you.
I think that's great. I think just from me having not experienced it and I'm just observing and having conversations with you, initially I would say, wow, this could be quite a lonely journey because not a lot of people understand it. Your body, you're going through a physical and a mental shift.
Yeah.
And you have different sects. The religious people saying they're even saying yoga could be evil. So you're getting so many conflicting and almost alienating pieces of feedback.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're with the right people, so I guess they have to use their judgment, their better judgment, but don't just succumb to the money grabs, because
No.
people are victimizing everybody. Just
Well, there's a lot of people out there right now that are I don't want to say they're life coaches, and there's people out there that, they want to provide a service, but make sure it's someone that is qualified in Kundalini before you go ahead and open up your credit card account to them.
yeah,
So,
that's great.
yeah.
All right, I don't have any other questions. Did you have any closing statements for the audience?
Like I said, I'm just going to post some things, a couple links that I found helpful as I've been going through this for the last 3.5 months. And, and if it resonates with you, great. If it doesn't resonate with you, then let it go. It's just this is my journey and my experience, and I just want to help as many people as I can. So that's why I'm doing this. And I just don't want people to be out there with no help. So, and if you want to comment, or if you want to talk to me, or, like I said, I'm not a qualified Kundalini teacher or anything like that, but I can resonate. I may be able to share stories. So that's it. We'll see you next time. Thanks again for being here. All right. Bye-bye.